A beam never fails with one clean snap. It starts with a small sound that makes your skin tighten, like a nail dragged slow across glass. Then the sound gets deeper, like the building is trying to warn you before it gives up. Fine grit slipped out of the ceiling seams and dusted my shoulders and the collar of my gray t-shirt. It tasted like limestone and old wine. I stood under the arch in the tasting hall and aimed my flashlight at a hairline crack running through the plaster. One thin line, quiet but serious, like a vein showing through skin. "Mr. Thorne," the assistant said behind me, checking his watch like gravity ran on his schedule. "If we could speed this up. The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. I did not look at him. I did not look at his tie, or the polished floor, or the chairs set up for people who thought money could talk to physics. "Nobody moves," I said. He blinked. "Excuse me." I stepped closer to the arch and ran my light along the stone. The crack turned bright white under the beam. I could see where it started, right near the center, where everything depended on one point holding its shape. "Your upstairs load is too heavy," I said. "If the kitchen crew turns those machines on again, this wing comes down." A couple board members laughed like I was doing a bit for attention. The assistant straightened his tie. "This is a historic landmark," he said. "You're here for an insurance sign-off, kid. Sign the paper." I kept my pen in my pocket. "I'm not signing anything," I said. "I'm red tagging it. Everyone out now." Nobody moved until I raised my voice one notch. "Not louder, sharper." "Out," I repeated. Chairs scraped. Heels clicked. Someone cursed under their breath. The dust kept falling anyway, calm and steady, like it did not care what anyone believed. That was when I noticed her. A woman stood near the doorway, not dressed like the board. No suit jacket, no boardroom armor. Just a fitted white top, a black skirt, and a leather shoulder bag strap cutting across her collarbone like she wore responsibility the way other people wore jewelry. She met my eyes once. Steady. Measuring. Like she was trying to decide if I was a problem or a solution. Then she turned toward the hall. "Dad," she called. The word landed heavy. Silas Vance appeared like he owned the air. Silver hair. Tailored jacket. A smile that did not warm anything. "What's the delay?" he asked. "Your building is failing," I said. His gaze slid over me like I was dirt on a window. "And you are Elias Thorne," he said, like my name tasted strange. "Structural. 29, I hear. That's adorable." The woman moved half a step in front of him. Not dramatic. Just enough to change the power in the room. "This is my vineyard," she said. "And my call." Silas's eyes narrowed. "Clara, don't make this dramatic. We have buyers arriving. We have a merger ready. I won't have some kid. You ignored maintenance for 20 years, Clara said, her tone controlled and sharp. He's the only one in this room paying attention to what's real." The assistant opened his mouth again, and I cut him off before he could turn this into another meeting. "Evacuate the wing," I said. "I want the load off this arch in 5 minutes. Then I'm going under the floor to see how bad the void is." Silas gave a short laugh. "Void. Nice word. Try not to scare my board with it." He brushed past me on purpose, shoulder to shoulder. I did not move. Not because I could not shove him back, but because I did not waste energy on men like him. I saved my energy for buildings that wanted to fall. When he was gone, Clara let out a slow breath like she had been holding it since morning. "Please," she said, low just for me. "Just get it done." I was loading my gear into my truck when the main house doors swung open again. Clara walked down the front steps into the late morning sun. Her hair was loose today, dark waves catching the light. That shoulder bag stayed on like a habit. "Mr. Thorne?" she asked. "Elias," I corrected. Formality doesn't fix broken structures. She tilted her head, like the correction amused her even though her life was on fire. "My assistant says you shut down my production line," she said. "I kept your production line from getting buried," I replied. "Your cellar wall is soft. Your limestone is wet. And there's a void under your north wing." Her jaw tightened. Then she pressed 2 fingers to her temple like she was physically holding herself together. "My father will call me incompetent," she said. "He'll use it to force a sale to Global Bev." "Then let him call," I said. "A label doesn't hold up a building." Her eyes flicked to my truck, to my tools, to the dust on my shirt. "Can you fix it before the county audit?" she asked. "Depends," I said. "On what?" "On whether you want it actually fixed," I said, "or you want it to look fixed long enough to pass a meeting." She did not hesitate. "I want it fixed." The words hit me harder than they should have. Because most people did not want the truth. They wanted something that made them feel safe without changing anything. Good answer, I said. Rare too. I called 3 firms, she continued. You're the only one who picked up. I'm asking you to stay on site. I'm asking you to take the job. I watched her hands while she spoke. Steady fingers. White knuckles around the bag strap. You're asking for a miracle, I said. I'm asking for a man who doesn't panic, she replied. I studied her face a second longer than necessary. Not just because she was beautiful, because she looked like someone who had learned to stand upright while everything leaned on her. Triple rate, I said. I answer to you. Not your board. Not your father. She nodded once. Clean and decisive. Agreed, she said. That night, I moved into the guest cottage. It was small and too quiet. It smelled like lavender and old wood polish. Before dawn, I was under the north wing with my headlamp on, tape measure in my teeth, mapping stress points. When the first light came up over the vines, I rolled my equipment across the stone floor and watched the readings come back ugly. Not collapsed. Not yet. But dying, slowly. At sunrise, I found Clara in the cellar, staring at the orange hazard lines I had sprayed onto the wall. It looks like a crime scene, she said. It is, I replied. Only the suspect is gravity. She gave me a dry look that almost made me smile. Can you save it? She asked. I did not give her a speech. I flipped my notebook toward her. Numbers. Simple sketches. A wall bowing. A floor sagging. An arch giving up. Yes, I said. If you let me do it my way. Her eyes locked on mine, and I felt something tight in my chest loosen, just a little. Okay, she said. Tell me what you need. Before I could answer, footsteps sounded on the stone steps above us. Heavy. Certain. Like the man they belonged to had never been told no. Clara's shoulders squared before he even appeared. And I knew, right then, the building was not the only thing trying to break. Silas Vance came down into the cellar like he was inspecting a purchase. He did not look at the damp limestone. He did not look at the orange hazard lines. He looked at me. So this is where the boy plays hero, he said, voice smooth, eyes sharp. Clara straightened beside me. It was not fear. It was practice. He's not playing, she said. He's documenting what you ignored. Silas waved a hand like problems could be brushed off the same way he brushed off people. Engineers always see disaster. It's how they bill. I already told your daughter my rate, I said. Calm. Flat. No performance. His eyes snapped to mine. For a second, the smile slipped. Then it returned, colder. The audit is on the 15th, he said to Clara. If this place isn't stamped, I sign the merger. Global Bev has an umbrella. Policy. They have real teams. Not this. This is my vineyard, Clara said again, and her voice did not shake. You don't get to trade it like a stock. Silas leaned closer, lowering his voice like it made him more reasonable. Clara, don't be emotional. Buyers don't like emotional. Clara's jaw tightened. I saw the way her fingers pressed into her bag strap, knuckles whitening again. I stepped forward just enough to pull his attention off her. Move your people off the north wing, I said. No heavy equipment. No tours. No catering. Not until I finish shoring and I like my numbers. Silas's gaze slid over my gray t-shirt, the dirt on my boots, like he was offended by reality. You're giving orders in my cellar, he said. I'm giving outcomes, I replied. You can ignore them if you want. Gravity won't. He held my stare for a long second, then turned to Clara like I was air. We'll talk upstairs, he said. I'm staying here, Clara said. Silas paused. Not because he respected her, but because he was surprised she had said no. Then he left without another word. When his footsteps faded, Clara let out a slow breath. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For him, I asked. For bringing you into this, she said. I watched her face. Her eyes were steady, but her shoulders were tight like they had been holding weight for years. I work with load, I said. Buildings and people. Your father is not special. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. You talk like you don't get scared. I get scared, I said. I just don't let it drive. She nodded once like she understood exactly what that cost. The first week turned the vineyard into a job site. My crew rolled in with dusty trucks and heavy steel. Marcus, my foreman, climbed out first. Big shoulders, quiet eyes, the kind of man who did not waste words. He looked at the estate house on the rise, then at the tasting hall, then at the orange lines and the sagging arch. You weren't kidding, he said. I never kid about collapse, I replied. We started with temporary shoring. Steel posts, plates, jack screws. A line of instruments that clicked all night, measuring movement so small most people would call it imaginary. Clara did not disappear into the main house. She walked the site with a notebook, hair tied back, sleeves rolled, listening. When I asked for access, she unlocked doors. When I asked for records, she had them. When someone tried to block a delivery, she rerouted it with one phone call and did not even look satisfied about it, like competence was just her normal. It was not romance yet. It was two people speaking the same language without meaning to. On day 6, the weather turned on us. A hard storm rolled in fast, the kind that turns dirt into soup in minutes. Wind slammed the cypress trees. Rain hit the limestone like thrown gravel. Water started to back up behind the retaining wall, and my trench filled like a bathtub. Marcus ran up, rain pouring off his hood. "The pond overflow is pushing back," he shouted. "It's climbing the trench." I sprinted to the low point and watched brown water rise. I could feel the pressure in the wall without touching it, like a pulse. "Sandbags," I snapped. "Now." "And kill power to the lower panel." A worker hesitated. "If we kill power, the sump." "We don't have a sump yet," I cut in. "We have a flood." "Move." We stacked bags until our shoulders burned. The water kept pressing. Then a sharp pop cracked near the service shed, a clean electric sound that did not belong to thunder. My head snapped up. Clara stood barefoot on the porch under the awning, cardigan clutched tight, hair damp against her cheek. "Go inside," I yelled. "It's my property," she shot back, but her voice wavered. I crossed the yard fast and stopped one step below the porch so I did not bring mud onto her boards. "You want this fixed?" I asked. "Yes," she said, immediate. "Then do what I say," I replied. "If you're out here in the open, you're a distraction I cannot afford." Her jaw tightened like she wanted to fight me just because she had fought everyone else her whole life. Then she nodded. "Controlled. Deliberate." "Tell me what to do," she said. I pointed. "Flashlight. Stay under cover. Keep the beam on my hands. If that pressure gauge spikes, you say it loud." She moved immediately. No drama. No delay. Under the porch awning, her light tracked my fingers as I adjusted a bypass valve and rerouted flow back into the pond line. Water shifted direction like an animal being forced into a cage. When the gauge jumped, her voice cut clean through the storm. "Spike." I killed flow, adjusted rate, and saved us from a blowout that would have turned the wall into a cracked mess. 20 minutes later, the water dropped. The trench held. The wall breathed again. Marcus clapped my shoulder once. "Nice." Clara handed me a bottle of water, her fingers steady now. "You speak fluent code," she said. "I speak fluent problem," I corrected. Her mouth twitched, then she looked away like she did not want me to see the smile. That night, we finally stopped moving around 2 in the morning. The storm still hammered the property, but the pressure was down and the wall was holding. We sat on the back steps under the porch light with a cold box of fast food someone delivered hours too late. My hands ached. My shirt was stuck to my back. Mud dried on my boots like armor. Clara peeled a limp fry off the cardboard and stared at it like she was trying to decide if she was allowed to laugh. "I look like I lost a fight with a hedge trimmer," she said. I glanced at her hair, loose and damp, and the smear of dirt on her jaw she did not seem to notice. "You look durable," I said. She turned her head toward me, one brow raised. "Durable?" "Yeah," I muttered. "Like you don't break when things lean on you." Her laugh came out quiet and real, like it surprised her as much as it surprised me. For a second, the storm sounded far away. Then her phone buzzed. She checked it, and the light from the screen tightened her face. "Dad," she said. I did not ask what it said. I could guess. Clara slid the phone into her pocket without answering. "He wants me to come upstairs," she said. "Go," I told her. "I'll finish the readings and lock down the shed." She stood, then paused on the step above me like she wanted to say something else but did not trust it. "Elias," she said softly. I looked up. "My dad will like you," she whispered. "I believe in you." The words hit in a way I did not expect. Not because I needed approval. I did not. But because she sounded like she was trying to hold on to something good in a place that trained her to expect bad. I stood too. I stepped close enough that the porch light warmed the space between us. "Then stand beside me closer," I replied. Clara's breath caught. Her eyes flicked to my mouth for half a second, then back up like she was choosing control again. She nodded once. Okay, she said. Closer. And right then, before any kiss, before any promise, I felt it. This was not just a job. This was a fight. And someone was already trying to make sure we lost. Because when I went to lock the service shed, I found the access panel open. Not from the storm. From a clean cut. The main power line to the north wing had been sheared with something sharp. Fresh metal glinted in my flashlight beam. I ran my thumb along the bite marks and felt my stomach go cold. Clara's voice drifted behind me from the porch, calling my name like she knew something was wrong. I straightened, turning the broken wire in my hand. Someone wants this to fail, I said. Clara stepped down beside me, her face calm, but her eyes sharp. Yeah, she whispered. And they don't like waiting, I answered. We didn't sleep after that. Not really. I rerouted the power through conduit and installed a lock on the access panel. Marcus added a camera facing the service shed, tucked high under the eave where it would catch plates and faces. We didn't talk about who did it, because saying Silas out loud would turn it into a fight inside Clara's chest. She already had enough fights living there. Instead, we did what I do when people play dirty. We got clean. Every bolt I tightened got a paint witness mark. Every critical connection got photographed with a timestamp. Every delivery got checked for serial numbers and thickness before it crossed the gate. Clara watched me label things like evidence, and I watched her learn to stop apologizing for needing protection. By day 10, the numbers started to move in our favor. The wall stopped creeping. Moisture levels dropped. Deflection readings steadied. The cellar felt less like a threat and more like a foundation again. Clara came down one evening with a folder pressed tight to her chest. The stress in her shoulders told me the paper inside was heavy. Global Bev offered early close, she said. Dad's pressuring the board. He's telling them I'm unfit. That I hired you for the wrong reasons. I didn't ask what reasons he was spreading. I didn't need the words. I'd seen the way he looked at her like she belonged to him. What do you want? I asked. Clara lifted her chin. I want my vineyard. I want my name. And I want this wall to stand so nobody can call me a liar. I nodded once. Then we finish. The next morning, a delivery truck rolled in with steel plates we hadn't ordered. Wrong thickness. Wrong grade. Wrong spec. A swap. Marcus caught it before any of it touched my shoring. He held one plate up, rainwater running off the edge. Someone's trying to make you fail. Yeah, I said. Which means they're nervous. Clara stood behind us, arms folded, watching the plate like it was a snake. Can you prove it? She asked. I don't prove feelings, I said. I prove facts. So I photographed the plates, the packing slip, the purchase order number, and the shipping label. I called the supplier on speaker with Clara listening, and had them confirm, out loud, that the order had been altered after approval. Marcus wrote down names and times. Procedure. Paper. The kind of thing sharks hate because they can't bite it and make it disappear. That afternoon, Silas showed up with 2 board members and a man in a blazer who looked like he'd never carried anything heavier than a bottle of wine. Silas spoke loud on purpose, like volume could bend reality. This is an eyesore, he announced. We're turning heritage into a construction zone. Clara, this is why the board doesn't trust you. Clara didn't plead. She didn't flinch. She stood still with her shoulders back. I stepped forward with a clear jar in my hand. Muddy water and silt, labeled with depth and location. See this? I asked one board member. He frowned at it like it was gross. That was holding up your north wing, I said. A slurry. If you prefer, I can pull my equipment and you can host your gala in a pile of limestone. Silas's smile tightened. Threats now. Options, I replied. Engineers don't do threats. We do outcomes. The board member cleared his throat and looked away. The man in the blazer shifted like he wanted to disappear. Silas's eyes stayed on Clara. Possessive. Mean. He leaned in like he was going to whisper something only she could hear. I stepped between them without touching either of them. Not a shove. Not a scene. Just my body occupying the space where his power lived. Silas's mouth twitched. Protective. Practical, I said. Wind doesn't care who your father is. That night, I walked the gala hall alone with my flashlight. The arch above the tasting room held steady now, but something about the air felt wrong. Not the building. The people. I checked every overhead fixture. I painted witness marks on the chandelier bracket bolts, thin lines that would crack if a wrench touched them. Then I added a secondary safety cable rated far above the chandelier's weight, anchored to a structural member nobody could reach without a ladder in time. I did it quietly, not because I expected a chandelier to fall on anyone, because I expected someone to try. The next morning, Silas arrived with 2 global BEV executives and an independent insurance consultant. He didn't come to see the wall. He came to see Clara fold. He laid a folder on the tasting room table like a weapon. "Mr. Thorne," he said to the buyers, 29. "A history of high-risk jobs. The liability is unacceptable. The board won't approve his stamp." The consultant opened the folder and made a show of frowning. Clara's face stayed composed, but I saw the tension in her throat. The way she swallowed hard, like she was holding back the same scream she'd swallowed for years. Silas turned to her. "It's over. The retrofit is fine, but it doesn't matter. We sell to Global Bev. They have an insurance umbrella and a real engineering firm." I set my own binder on the table. Thick, tabbed, clean. Permits, county correspondence, soil reports, cure logs, torque readings, mill certs, third-party peer review letter from a licensed structural engineer I'd brought in because I knew someone like Silas would try to cut my legs out from under me. Silas's eyes flicked to it, irritation flashing. The consultant reached for my binder like he didn't want to. "Before you read," I said, voice steady, "turn to tab F, county conditional approval and my insurance certificate. Tab H is peer review. Tab K is photos of every critical connection before and after work." One of the Global Bev executives looked surprised. "You anticipated this." "I billed for loads," I said, "including human ones." Silas scoffed. "Cute line." "It's not a line," I replied. "It's documentation." Clara's fingers tightened around the table edge, not fear now. Anger. Silas leaned in, lowering his voice like he was doing her a favor. "Even if the wall stands, the optics don't. An older CEO sleeping with a young contractor. That's what people will say." Clara's eyes flashed. "Don't." Silas smiled. "You can't stop gossip. You can only stop mistakes." My jaw locked. I didn't look at him. I looked at Clara. "If you want me gone," I said evenly, "say it. If you're buying time, don't explain. Just give me one clear signal." Clara held my gaze. Then her chin dipped once. Small. Decisive. Like she was signing something in the air. "Message received." I turned back to the table. "You want optics?" I said. "Fine. I'll step off site. The work is complete and meets code. I'll file the final report with the county tonight. My stamp stands whether I'm here or not." Silas's smile faltered. He'd expected pleading. He'd expected heat. He got procedure. I slid a single-page summary across the table. Scope. Compliance. Third-party sign-off. County contact number. All the parts that didn't care about gossip. "I'll be available by phone," I said. "But I'm not giving anyone a photo they can twist." Clara's eyes met mine. There was a muscle working in her jaw. She looked like she wanted to argue, to grab my sleeve, to tell me not to leave. She didn't. She respected the signal she gave. That was why she was dangerous in the best way. I packed my truck in 10 minutes. Marcus watched me load gear like he wanted to say something, but knew I was too tight to hear it. "You sure?" he asked finally. "No," I said. "But it's right." As I closed the tailgate, Clara appeared at the edge of the driveway. Not in front of the executives. Not giving anyone a show. Just her. Just me. Gravel between us, and an entire family empire trying to crush her. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "My dad will like you," she said again, like she was trying to make it true through repetition. "I believe in you." My chest tightened. I walked toward her until the gravel stopped crunching, and we were close enough that I could see the faint smear of dust near her temple from the cellar. "Then stand beside me closer," I said again. This time she did. Clara stepped into my space like she'd finally stopped asking permission to exist. Her hand slid to the front of my shirt, fingers curling, not pulling yet, just holding. "I'm not asking you to disappear," she whispered. "I'm asking you to survive this with me." My throat went tight. "I will," I said. She rose on her toes, and she kissed me first. Hard. Clean. No theatrics. A decision. When we broke apart, she didn't say anything soft. "Don't let him take this," she whispered. "I won't," I replied. And then I drove away, leaving my witness marks on bolts, my safety cable hidden above a chandelier, and my heart in a cellar that finally felt solid. 12 hours later, my phone buzzed once. A single text from Clara. "Centennial Gala tonight. He moved the vote. He thinks he has me cornered." Then another message. Please come if you can. And as I stared at the screen, my stomach dropped for a reason that had nothing to do with board votes. Because the way she said it felt like a warning. Like she already knew someone was going to try something bigger than gossip. Something that could drop from the ceiling if nobody was watching. I was sitting in a bar in downtown San Francisco that smelled like fryer oil and old regret, staring at Clara's text like it was a live wire. Centennial Gala tonight. He moved the vote. Please come if you can. I paid the bartender for a beer I hadn't touched and walked out into cold night air that felt too clean for what was coming. The drive back north was all headlights and jaw tension. I kept seeing the witness marks I'd painted. I kept hearing that first scratch of failure in stone. I kept hearing Clara's voice, not dramatic, just steady. Stand beside me closer. The vineyard lights cut through the darkness when I pulled in. Music thumped from the gala hall. Valets in black coats moved like they were part of the decor. I parked by the service road and grabbed my binder and a small tool pouch I always kept in the truck. Habit. Safety. Proof. Security stopped me at the service entrance. Sir, you can't. I held up my county access pass and the permit packet. I'm the engineer on record, I said. Move. He looked at the badge, then at my face, then at the glittering hall behind him. He hesitated like he could feel the weight of a lawsuit either way. I didn't beg. I waited. Finally, he stepped aside. The back corridor smelled like fresh paint, wine, and expensive flowers. I could hear laughter and glass clinking through the doors. I pushed into the banquet hall, and the whole room hit me in a wave of light and money. Clara was on stage at a podium. Silas stood beside her, close enough to look like ownership. The global Bev executives were in the front rows, smiling like they already held the keys. Silas had a glass raised mid-toast. His voice carried the way it always did, smooth and sharp at the same time. We begin a new chapter, he was saying. Clara's jaw tightened. Just a small movement. Too small for most people. I knew what it meant. Stop, I said, loud enough to slice through the room without shouting. The silence didn't arrive all at once. It rippled, moving table to table, turning faces toward me like sunflowers to a storm. Clara's eyes snapped to mine. Surprise first, then relief so fast she tried to hide it. Silas's smile sharpened like he'd been waiting for my entrance. Mr. Thorne, he said, still craving attention. Before I could answer, a sound crawled across the ceiling above us. A low groan. Not the building. The fixture. The chandelier shifted just enough to make the crystals chatter like teeth. Every head tipped up. I didn't freeze. I looked for my witness marks on the bracket bolts. They were broken. Everyone back? I said, voice cutting through silk and champagne. Now. It wasn't a suggestion. People moved. Chairs scraped. A few screamed. Someone dropped a glass, and it shattered, sharp and bright on the marble. I grabbed a ladder from a startled caterer and dragged it under the chandelier. Hold the base, I told a waiter. He grabbed it with both hands, eyes wide. I climbed fast. At the bracket, the problem was immediate. Fresh wrench scuffs on bolt heads. One bolt turned too easily under my gloved fingers. I backed it out half a turn and saw the threads. Stripped clean. Metal shavings clung to the grease like glitter. My stomach went cold. This wasn't vibration. This wasn't settling. This was someone with tools and intent. I held up the bolt. This isn't an accident, I said loud enough for the front rows. The threads are stripped. Someone did this. A ripple went through the room. Phones came up. Murmurs turned into sharp whispers. Silas's face tightened. You're making a scene. I'm preventing a funeral, I replied. I swapped in a new bolt from my kit, torqued it to spec, and then I clipped the secondary safety cable into place where everyone could see it. This cable is why nobody got hurt, I said, climbing down. I installed it during my last inspection. I hit the floor, breath hard, hands steady. Clara stepped off the stage like she didn't feel the eyes on her. She walked straight to me, stopped close enough that I could see her pulse jumping in her throat. Silas took one step toward her. I moved between them without raising my hands. Just placed my body in the space again. Don't, I said to Silas, quiet. He stopped. Not because he wanted to. Because the entire room was watching, and security had started moving in his direction. I turned to the head of security. Check the rigging access in the maintenance closet, I said. Pull the camera. See who signed in after my last walkthrough. Silas scoffed. His voice lost height. Absurd. One of the global Bev executives cleared his throat. We will be reviewing that, he said, and his eyes narrowed at Silas, not me. That was the moment I saw it. Silas wasn't controlling the room anymore. The room was controlling him. Clara took the stripped bolt from my palm and stared at it. Her fingers were steady. Her face was calm in a way that made my skin prickle. Then she turned toward the crowd. "My father wants to sell you a story," she said, voice carrying clean. "Here's the real one. Someone tampered with a safety fixture to make my engineer look incompetent and to force my hand." Silas's mouth opened. Nothing came out fast enough. Clara lifted her chin. "The merger discussion is suspended. Effective immediately." Gasps. Outrage. Relief. People talking over each other, desperate to attach themselves to the right side of history. Silas snapped, the mask cracking. "You can't." "I can," Clara said. "I'm the CEO, and I'm calling an emergency board vote tonight." She turned to me then. Not a speech. Not a plea. A look. A clear signal. I stepped close enough that the edge of my shoulder brushed hers. "Then stand beside me closer," I said. Clara slid her hand into mine. Public. Unapologetic. Like she was done being moved around the board like a piece. She leaned in and kissed me once. Short. Decisive. Then she faced the room again like she'd just locked a door. The rest of the night didn't end politely. It ended like a storm. Security pulled access logs. Guests filmed. Board members broke into tight circles. Clara's attorney arrived in under 20 minutes with cold eyes and a briefcase like a weapon. I didn't hover. I did my part. I wrote an incident report. I photographed the stripped bolt beside my earlier time-stamped photos. I handed everything to the county inspector when he arrived, because I'd called him on the drive over. He took one look at the evidence and nodded. "This is tampering." Silas heard the word and went pale. He tried one last move. He stepped toward Clara, voice sharp and low. "You're ruining your own legacy." Clara didn't back up. I didn't raise my voice either. I stepped forward by half a pace. "Your legacy is on that bolt," I said, "and on the footage they're pulling." Silas's eyes flicked to the security cameras, then to the cluster of guests filming him. For the first time since I met him, he looked unsure. He turned and walked out like a man leaving a room he used to own. Later, when the chaos thinned and the music was dead, Clara found me near the service door where the cool air smelled like wet grass and crushed grapes. "You didn't say anything soft," she said. "I didn't need to," I replied. Her lips curved, a small smile that felt real. She reached up and brushed the dirt mark on my jaw with her thumb. "Not lingering. Just real. Come with me," she said. She led me down into the cellar where the air was cool and steady. The wall held. No creaks. No dust. The structure was quiet in the way safe things are quiet. Clara stopped under the rebuilt arch and turned to me. "My dad always told me I'd need someone powerful beside me," she said. "Someone who could control the room." I swallowed. "And did you believe him?" Clara shook her head once. "I needed someone who could hold the ceiling up when the room lied." My chest tightened. She stepped closer until the space between us disappeared. Her hand went to my shirt, fingers warm and sure. "My dad will like you," she whispered, softer now. "But it doesn't matter. I believe in you." I lifted my hand to her jaw, gentle pressure, nothing trapping. "Then keep doing that," I said. "Keep standing beside me." Closer. Clara's eyes dropped to my mouth for half a second, then back up. Clear signal. She kissed me again, slower this time. Not panic. Not adrenaline. Just a choice that didn't need anyone's approval. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "Stay," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. 6 weeks later, harvest season rolled in. The vineyard was alive again. Workers moving through rows like a living machine. The air smelling of fruit and sun and clean dirt. The cellar stayed solid. No moisture creep. No new movement. The arch held like it had always belonged there. Half a second. Not shocked. Just aware. I looked at her. "In business?" I asked. Clara lifted one brow. "In everything." I squeezed her hand once. "Firm. Mutual. Work starts Monday," I said. Clara's smile warmed. Just enough to make the whole room feel different. Outside, the vineyard rolled green under a clean sky, and for once, nothing was moving in the walls. Only us.
If this story stays with your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.